The ban list was pretty solid. OSS finally got banned. Branded lost Gimmick Puppet. They could just run Ido or Armageddon, which did actually top a regional recently, but there are some detractors saying that the deck is dead without Puppet. And hitting Tenpai and Yubel is pretty neat. It doesn't solve every problem though. It didn't solve the problem of Fiendsmith being a generic package. Any 2 effect monsters equals full Fiendsmith combo. D-Shifter is still a card that exists in the format. Masterpiece came off the list in Master Duel, but is still banned in the TCG, which there's really no reason for it to be banned in the TCG. But hey, maybe in the next list they will address the other issue that the format has. This is a pattern that the community has gotten caught up in with every single ban list release. The ban list drops, it's generally a safe list, doesn't fix all the issues, and the community talks about how the next list will fix the other issues. And that's not unique to these past few ban lists, by the way. This has been a pattern since TOS format, 5 years ago. Back when Striker was arguably the best deck in the format, they first hit Hornet Drones to 1, and then they hit Kagari to 1, and then they hit Widow Anchor to 1. But it didn't solve the actual problem with the deck, and that was Engage. Just searching out any card that they needed and then drawing a card on top of it. It took until the Massacre list in 2020 to finally ban Engage. And you know what the conversation was when Engage didn't get any kind of limitation? It was Engage needs to be banned. That was the conversation after every single ban list until finally it was banned. It's the same thing with Crystron Halki Fibrax. Halki got at minimum 5 cards banned as Konami avoided the actual problem card. They banned the Glow Up Bulb, and then players just moved to Jet Synchron. And then they banned Jet Synchron. And then players just started to go to Steam the Cloak. O-Lion was part of another Halki combo with Aurorodon that ended up getting a bunch of Synchro boss monsters onto the board. All these tuners and Aurorodon and Link Cross ended up being banned because Konami just wasn't hitting the actual problem card that was Crystron Halki Fibrax. It wasn't until many lists later that Halki Fibrax was finally banned. And you know what else? It's the same exact story with Mystic Mind. Mystic Mind was running around for 4 goddamn years before Konami finally decided to ban it. The unfortunate part about Mystic Mind, though, is that it was about a couple formats too late when they finally decided to ban it. Mystic Mind was effectively replaced with D-Shifter. The conversation has changed from play around Mystic Mind to play around D-Shifter. And Shifter is kind of worse than Mystic Mind right now, simply because it benefits certain strategies. Examples being Kashtira and Malice. These decks operate best under D-Shifter, while also locking their opponents out of their plays. And D-Shifter can be used reactively to counter what their opponent's doing turn 1. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and they said that D-Shifter will probably be banned right after it stops being relevant, just like Mystic Mind. I feel like Konami is scared that if they ban too much, people are going to be turned off from the game and stop playing. With Fiendsmith Engraver being well over $100 at one point, they're scared that players will put too much into the secondary market and then, well, just leave the game if they ban Closed Moon. The thing is, players will adapt. They will find another deck. The problem isn't that the players putting too much money into it will leave. Problem is the bar for entry and staying is way too high. And once in, they see all the problems with the game. The small, very consistent engines and a bunch of other non-engine cards just piled into the deck, and just overall bad card design. The ban list helps with some of these issues, but it doesn't address all of them. And once a deck starts being more affordable, they ban one of the key parts of the deck a month later. Like Snake Eye, for example, OSS was just banned. That was just after Wanted was just reprinted in both Negaton and Bonanza. Just a month later after Bonanza, actually. Making these cards more affordable earlier, not later, would actually create a lot less stress for a lot of players. Because the conversation goes, I need this card for this deck, but I can't get it because it's too goddamn expensive. So now, the deck I really like is no longer viable in the competitive scene until I get this $100 card. And sometimes that card you have to pay $300 for because you need a playset of it. That is not reasonable by most people's standards. The game needs to be more affordable so that if Konami's scared about scaring off people dumping a bunch of money into it, it's a low risk entry for them. And it's not cutting off the people who want to play the game. But instead of that, we're having this classist argument where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a luxury game, even though it's a game intended for kids, for the most part. And when I say bar for entry, I don't just mean the financial cost of buying a deck and supplies. I'm also talking about just learning the game. I was having this conversation with my friend and her boyfriend just a week ago, where he said that the game is easy to learn, which on paper, yes, for the most part. On paper, it is easy to learn. I mentioned this in a video a while back ago, but when you start learning the game, you realize there's a lot more involved. Examples being the battle phase being separated into 5 different steps, spell speed 1 through 3, and then spell speed 4 being an unofficial term that the player base just came up with, which confuses new players even more. What can and can't be set, and what can and can't be flipped up when they're set, and what time they be flipped up, what starts a chain and what doesn't start a chain, a when and if effect, just to name a few things. It does seem like Konami is working on the bar for entry though. With Quarter Century Stampede, it looks like they are reprinting Fuelos, which was $130 a copy before Stampede was announced. Now it's only $90 per copy, and it'll probably go down more after Stampede is released. But thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys are thinking down below about this. And let me know if I'm missing any detail or context. And while you're down there, subscribe to the channel. Goodbye.